A diplomatic storm is brewing between Pretoria and Washington. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has delivered a sharp rebuke against thousands of white South Africans, specifically Afrikaners, who are leaving the country under newly granted refugee status in the United States. The president didn't mince his words, labeling those individuals as, quote, cowardly. Speaking from the West African nation of Ivory Coast, President Ramaphosa condemned the decision by the Trump administration to fast-track refugee applications from Afrikaners, calling it both unjustified and politically motivated. Ramaphosa insisted these individuals do not meet the internationally recognized definition of a refugee, stating, "A refugee is someone fleeing political or religious persecution." That is not the case here. Over 8,000 white South Africans have reportedly applied for resettlement in the United States under a special program that has controversially prioritized this group. Dozens arrived in Washington earlier this week aboard a U.S.-funded charter flight. The South African government, however, is adamant that Afrikaners are not being persecuted and has condemned the program as an attempt to undermine post-apartheid progress. Shout out to our dear subscribers for helping the channel grow. To our non-subscribing friends or first-time viewers, your support is as important. If you can take a second to hit the subscribe button, that will be fantastic. President Trump, now in his second term, has previously echoed and verified claims of systemic violence against white farmers in South Africa. In 2018 and again during his current term, he alleged that white landowners were being brutally killed. These claims have been repeated and amplified by figures such as tech billionaire Elon Musk. However, South Africa's police and its largest farming organizations have pushed back. Between April 2020 and March 2024, data shows 225 people were killed on farms, only 53 of whom were white farmers. Most of the victims were black farm workers. In February, Trump suspended all U.S. foreign aid to South Africa, citing alleged mistreatment of white landowners. His administration has also drastically reduced refugee admissions from countries facing war and famine, including Afghanistan and the Democratic Republic of Congo, making the rapid approval of South African Afrikaners even more controversial. President Ramaphosa is set to meet with President Trump in Washington on May 21st, with tensions between the two nations likely to take center stage. From Johannesburg, South African officials have expressed deep concern, calling the refugee move a thinly veiled political maneuver tied to broader geopolitical frictions. These include Pretoria's diplomatic relationships with countries like Iran and its stance on Israel, which have drawn ire from Washington. This development has not only ignited debate over race, identity, and migration, but has now escalated into a full-blown international standoff. Elsewhere in America, a major legal showdown is underway in the United States, as 20 states have filed lawsuits against the Trump administration, accusing it of coercive and unconstitutional threats to strip billions in federal funding from states that don't comply with the White House's immigration policies. Leading the charge is California Attorney General Rob Bonta, who denounced the administration's tactics as blatantly illegal and a thinly veiled attempt to force states to adopt the president's hardline immigration agenda or face devastating cuts to critical funding for disaster relief and infrastructure. At the heart of the dispute, a set of executive orders President Trump signed last month instructing federal agencies to track and penalize so-called sanctuary jurisdictions, states and cities that do not fully cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. According to the lawsuits, these threats could jeopardize funding for emergency response programs, flood control systems, and even transportation projects like bridges, airports, and rail lines. Critics argue that using essential public safety funds as leverage over immigration policy is not only unethical but illegal. Two separate lawsuits have now been filed, one targeting the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA, and the other aimed at the Department of Transportation. Plaintiffs argue that the Trump administration is overstepping legal boundaries since Congress already allocated these funds for public safety and infrastructure, not for political bargaining. Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell stated that FEMA has no authority to impose such conditions. Meanwhile, Rhode Island AG Peter Naranjo didn't hold back, calling the move part of a creeping authoritarianism threatening constitutional safeguards. He warned, using the safety of Americans as collateral, the Trump administration is once again bullying states into surrendering their rights. The group of states taking legal action includes coastal, Midwestern, and even Southwestern regions, showing a broad resistance to what many see as federal overreach. But the Trump administration isn't backing down. A spokesperson for the White House, Kush Desai, slammed the lawsuits as political theater, accusing Democratic attorneys general of playing games instead of protecting Americans from what he described as gangster illegal aliens. So far, the White House has not issued a formal response to the legal filings. With legal and political stakes running high, the battle lines are now drawn between the states and the federal government, and the outcome could shape immigration enforcement and states' rights for years to come. We'll continue to follow developments and bring you the latest right here on VlogND. For now, I'm Sal Pierre. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay curious, stay informed. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like and share our videos. We appreciate your support so much.